for this particular group. Long story short is I just need to go through one of the other bill drafters to get things done. It shouldn't take any longer than if I was able to draft it myself. Just want to make sure you're aware of that up front, just so there's no immediate concern.
Well, no offense to the attorneys in the room, but that could be a good thing. So, well, welcome aboard. We appreciate it. And I think we made your work a little light this year. I think we only have one liquor alcohol bill in Washington County. So that should be good to go. Also, last week, I wanted to talk about I-81 a little bit. I know it's on everyone's minds and concern. We did have the opportunity prior to session starting to meet with the governor's staff, along with John Barr and Scott Hobbs. So we had a wealth of information to present to them. They're fully aware of the need for the I-81 widening, and their position is basically that they look at this as a temporary pause, not a permanent elimination of the project. So that's good news. And I know Washington County Day in Annapolis, you all had some good conversations as well with various leaders, and it sounds pretty promising that that funding will be restored. As we looked into the numbers, it's $15 million state money, and the rest basically was federal money to do phase two. So, you know, I say only 15 million, but it's a lot of money. But in the overall scheme of things, if the state could come up with 15 million for their share, it does free up a lot of federal money. So hopefully that can happen and be part of maybe one of the supplemental budgets. Anyone have anything else to add on I-81? No. Okay, seeing none. Also this week we had the Maryland Association of Community Colleges in town, and we had the good fortune to meet with HCC's president, Dr. Klauber, and he was talking about a lot of the issues affecting HCC as part of the budget process and the legislative process. So I thought it would be a good idea just to have him in the meeting this morning to talk to us about his concerns, his hopes, and his desires for this legislative session and HCC. So Dr. Klauber, the floor is yours.
Delegate Wyvill. You all have heard probably till you're sick about me talking about the operational cuts that we got from the governor last 2 weeks ago now, I guess. I will only focus on that to say that Delegate Grossman had asked me to kind of look around and see where I could find some money. And I spoke to two or three of you this week saying, well, you know, the governor put in a new appropriation for public safety and security on college campuses, which is $25 million of new money. And, you know, that would be an excellent place since we educate 300,000 students, 2/3 of the college students in Maryland, to go in, give us a pro rata position part of that money, and then use that to fund our formula, which operating dollars are for things like public safety and security. You know, I'd much rather do that. I later find out yesterday from one of my friends in Annapolis that that money has actually kind of been earmarked, although it doesn't say it in the line item, for the HBCUs. So none of the community colleges are getting any of that money. And I suspect that from a political standpoint, it's probably going to become sacrosanct and that untouchable. I guess my last point that I want to talk about on operational funding is this. You, as members of the legislature for years, have set aside, you know, obligations of what the state is going to pay for higher education. For CADE, it's 29 cents on the dollar of whatever goes to the USM system. And you know, those are existing obligations. This budget comes along with a lot of new obligations. And I would just ask that you look to the existing obligations you have and paying those prior to taking on anything new. And there are a lot of new ones out there that you could pick and choose from. And that's kind of what legislators do and their staffs to kind of hunt for that money. And I would hope that you'd be able to find that and make us whole as the process goes on. What I want to really talk to you today about, which I didn't spend a lot of time speaking with you about, is our capital request and where we are on that. And I wanted to make sure I had all of my facts and figures together for you rather than just cocktail conversation, which is what we had this past week. Last year, we started the process in the capital budget, well, actually before that, October 2022, I think we got approval from MHEC to go forward with Advanced Technology Center renovation. This is not the building on Northern Avenue. This is the building on campus that used to be the gym back before the ARC was built. And it was renovated into classroom space in 1989, which that's what, almost 35 years ago almost. And that building has come to the point in time, it's got to be renovated. Systems, roof, all of that. And this is going to be nothing fancy. This is pretty much a straight renovation. MHEC approved it. Last year's capital budget, we put in and had $294,000 in the capital budget for A&E design. When it came out from DBM, they had zeroed that out, and no one really knows why. Much thanks to the work of Senator Quarterman, Delegate Grossman, and Delegate Barnes, because that year the budget, I guess, started in the House that year. We were able to get that money back in for A&E. Okay, great. Should have been able to start in August of last year. Never got the project approved for the architecture and engineering design work. October comes. We have our kind of annual Zoom call with DBM. Go over the project. We're waiting on you, folks. Waiting on you. They say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and approve this project. Days, weeks, months go by, nothing happens. Me, the board here, we got sick and tired of waiting. We went ahead in January, on our own nickel, and we've hired an architect. I'm meeting with them today. We're moving forward with the A&E, and we're going to be finished with that A&E by October, because in this year's budget, the state is supposed to fully fund the first half of that appropriation, which is about $6.3 million on what's going to be a total of almost a $14 million renovation. Well, the budget comes out from DBM and they cut it down to $296,000. And their justification was, quote, recommended amount aligned to schedule. Well, we already got that appropriated this past year and the year we're in now. I mean, these people are not only tone deaf, they don't know what's going on within their own agency. And so we are going to be ready to go to bid in October. And we need to, the county has already put its money up. They've already made their commitment to their local match. Hell, I got $1.5 million sitting in reserve to buy new furniture and equipment to go in the building once it's finished, and to finish up anything else that we might miss in the bidding process. I mean, everybody is ready to go except for the Department of Budget and Management. And I really need you guys to, this year, to get this funding, the $6.3 million put in. And look, I get it. I have heard the kind of the soundbite coming out of Annapolis this year that we're going to have a return to normalcy. I mean, that is, I got that, and probably that's necessary in some respects. However, and I also recognize, I mean, during the Hogan years, when we, kind of money was around, there were some years in the capital budget for the MAC schools, it was $125 million. Typically, historically, that appropriation statewide has been about $80 million for the MAC schools for capital appropriations. Well, a return to normalcy is not $38 million, which is what the BRFA comes back with this year. That is not normal. That's half of normal. And so, by the way, I don't work for the other MAC schools, but every MAC school except for one had their projects either eliminated or significantly cut. And so I'm in good company, I guess, with Community College, Baltimore County, Montgomery, and several others. But I really need y'all's help to get that funding back in there for the ATC. And sure, you want to have a return to normalcy of 80 million, that'd be fine. But let's just try and get our $6.3 million in there. So that's my request to you today, and I thank you for anything you can do for us.
Thank you, Dr. Glover. Anyone have any, members of the delegation have any questions or comments in regards to HCC? Seeing none, you did an incredible job. And I just lost the Zoom link.
Thank you, but I'll send it to you in writing as well.
There we go. Yes, please do. There's a lot going on, and we appreciate if you can put that in writing as well, and see what we can do. Thank you, Dr. Klauber. Okay, next on the agenda, we, as you recall, last time we met, we had quite a few bills that were in drafting. So we do have some of those bills back. My intent mainly for this week is to discuss them, and then we'll move them forward next week based on the results of those discussions, if appropriate. First on the list, we actually had approved this one. It was the Board of Education residency requirement, and since approving that, we got comments back from the Board of Ed pointing out that a 6-month residency requirement, someone could technically file and run, or would have to file and potentially run for the seat without being a county or state resident. So I think their request was that they be a minimum of a 6-month county resident and 1-year resident of the state. And I believe that aligns with what members of the House of Delegates are. So does anyone have any comments on those suggested changes?
Mr. Chairman, as long as it conforms to what we do for senators and delegates, I'm willing to make a motion to accept that change.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Senator McKay, second by Delegate Baker. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None opposed. Okay, we'll get that amended and we'll get it back out to the body for approval. The multi-use sports and events facility, beer, wine, liquor, as you know, their license allows them to sell beer and wine. This adds liquor to that. You have that copy before you. Does anyone have any questions or comments in regards to that legislation? Sorry about that. I don't think they wanted to comment on the bill. Anyone? Okay, so we will put that up for a vote next week. The Washington County Bonding Authority, that increases their bonding authority by $100 million. Anyone have any comments or questions?
By 100 million or up to 100 million?
I believe it increases it by 100 million. They currently have bonding authority
To 50,000.
remaining. Was it 50 million remaining yet, or? Kirk, do you want to take that?
Yeah, as you know, every year we issue bonds to cover capital projects and pay off other older ones, sort of in a revolving manner. The authorization bucket, for lack of a better word, is being exhausted, which is why we need this new bill to provide for additional authorization for the next several years.
Refresh my memory. What was the amount previously?
I'd have to look, but I want to say it was 80 million. I think it was, I think we did it in 2017 or 2018 was the last time we did it.
Kirk's correct. The previous amount was $80 million.
Okay,
Thanks, Michelle.
thank you. Senator Corrigan.
I guess the question is back to, we asked the delegation day, what is that amount that's left in that bandwidth? So say it was $80 million, you guys said, and it's a revolving thing. Where are you guys at now as the county, as far as what's that bandwidth, so to speak? I thought you guys had said during the pre-delegation day that it was about around 50 million, which still would have left you about a $20 to $30 million bandwidth, again, for lack of a better description. And so if we went it to 100, then you almost have double your authority that you currently have. And I never saw any follow-up from that. And if it didn't make it to my office, I apologize, but I know we had inquired back in the fall as far as that.
I have that information and I will get it to you today.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So my question is, are they taking it from,
Delegate Baker?
are they taking it up to, or is it an additional 100 million? And if it's an additional, what will their borrowing authority total amount be if approved?
I believe it's additional, but Michelle or Kirk, you want to answer that?
It goes from 80 to 100. Yeah, it would be.
But you have remaining capacity now, so if we pass this bill for 100 million and you have capacity of, say, 50 remaining, does that mean you now have 150 million? Or does this 100 million replace what you were previously authorized?
It would be in addition to it. We currently, I have to look at the numbers to see how much we currently have remaining. So just estimating if we had 50 million, we're going to issue another 14 million in the current fiscal year. We will issue probably another 12 to 14 million in the next fiscal year. So that will deplenish or depleted about $30 million. That'll leave us about 20 million until this bond takes effect. So we would need this to get us through the upcoming 4 to 5 fiscal years after our current bond amount runs out over the next two to 3 years.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember is, this is a ceiling. It doesn't mean that the full actual amount is actually going to be issued.
Right.
I appreciate that, Kirk. And I think that goes back to the question of the need. I don't think anyone has an issue as far as want to make sure the capital projects are done, but what is the need? And it was actually 7 million. It wasn't 80. I had this bill back in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you from a procedural matter, the CFO told me, hey, we're nearing the exhaustion of what we have now. We need new authority for it. And, so this made the legislative list. And, it's something we do on a regular basis.
No, I think it would just be helpful for the delegation to be able to actually see it, because as someone I think you just said it was about 14 to 16 million or whatever that number was for the next 2 years. But I didn't hear any discussion of what was falling off, because at the very beginning of the conversation, you mentioned it's a revolving thing where some things get added, other things come off. And I think it would be good to see a clearer picture as far as what the projects are in the pipeline and what debt service is coming off. So not debt service, but what bonds are coming off, so to speak.
Yeah, we can get that for you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next topic, and that's the also Washington County. That was the request for vehicle procurement not being subject to competitive bidding, and it raises that amount to $100,000 for vehicle purchases. Anyone have any questions or comments on that legislation? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Next item involved the treasurer. We had a request from the treasurer to do tax sales for municipalities where the municipal tax was not paid, but the county tax was paid. He had also asked for changes to advertising to try to minimize the cost of advertising. And I think it's important to note that even if the manner in which the advertising has changed, it does not change the fact that letters are sent out to the property owners and well in advance of that on several occasions. So it's not that someone is first reading it in the newspaper that their property may be sold for tax sale. The third item, before I move on, so I did speak with the county treasurer on both of those, and there seems to be some ambiguity and some misunderstanding out there. So he's agreed we're probably going to consider just tabling both of those items. So he has a better opportunity to go out and talk to the municipalities and the public to inform them of what he is trying to do in that regard. The third item was the request to consider the treasurer position going from an elected position to appointed position. So we'll just put all those three items on the table at the same time, since they all involve the treasurer's office, and throw it out to the delegation if anyone has any comments or questions about those.
Well, Bill, I think you're exactly, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I think you are correct. There's a lot of confusion going on, and I tend to believe that the bills that the treasurer has put up, we need to get to understand exactly what's going on. So I think it would be a good idea to just go ahead and just table those issues with the treasurer until next session.
Others. I think we lost the connection.
Can you
I
hear
can
me,
now.
sir? Okay. So I tend to believe that those issues with the treasurer, whether it be the request from the commissioners asking it to be an appointed position, and well as the issues that the treasurer has asked for, whether it be the bonding or not the bonding, the advertising or the taxes and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think that we as a community are all on the same page yet. And I think that those items should be all tabled until next session.
Okay, is that a motion?
I will make an motion, sir.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to table those three items regarding the treasurer's office. Is there a second to that?
Well,
Second.
this is just quickly, this is Delegate Grossman. I've had my hand up waiting to
Hold on.
ask the question.
I
before-
know, and I'm gonna call for discussion. The protocol is Senator McKay had the floor.
Okay,
So I gave him the floor. He made a motion. The motion was seconded by who?
Quarterman.
Okay, so the motion's made and seconded by Senator Portman. So any further discussion, Delegate Grossman?
so I guess that I think it's a good time since I understand tabling these issues, I guess, but we had consensus, and it feels like there is still consensus from folks back home asking for at least the treasurer change in the position becoming a staff position, and there was a unity in from both the treasurer and the commissioners, et cetera, when we were presented this option or this change at pre-legislative forum. So I'm still trying to understand where that change of needing to not do that came from. I'm seeking some understanding there.
Well, even when it was presented to us, it was presented that it was as you recall, in closed session, a 4-1 vote. But then when it came into open session, it was apparently unanimous at the time. It's my understanding.
That was a unanimous vote. It wasn't a four to.
I don't know who's speaking, and
And
I
that was
have the floor.
unanimous.
So
You're being misinformed.
thank you, Commissioner. I don't think so, because that was the comments that were made at our pre-legislative forum.
No, no, that's not accurate. All 5 commissioners were in agreement that one commissioner wanted to make the treasurer a report to the commissioners, not the the county administrator. That's not accurate.
Okay, irregardless, I think this conversation has proved the point that there's a lot of disagreement out there.
I disagree with that statement. I now have 8 signatures of the 9 mayors in support. The community is a support of this legislation to make it appointed. No offense, Senator McKay, but I just texted you a few minutes ago saying there was 2 more people signing that letter for support of appointment. The community, the mayors that represent the communities in this, the people in this community are all in favor, along with one time 5 commissioners, which now is backtracked, which is fine. But you have the community, 4 Republican commissioners, the mayors of each party, all supporting this legislation to be appointed for the treasurer. And you guys are taking it on your own to rule on this by tabling it and putting it off. It will never go away. So I plead and urge with you, support the mayors, support the county commissioners, and vote to have us have this position to be appointed.
So
Thank you.
Commissioner, let me ask you, what gives the right of one elected official to ask for another elected official's position to be eliminated?
Because we were elected to vote, represent for the people, and that's what we were doing and are doing.
You were elected by the people to remove
So it's
the
obvious,
voter
it's
from
obvious
having
you
the
have a
choice
personal angst
of
against
electing
this,
their
Mr.
treasurer.
Weibel. It's obvious you're against this personally. Put it to vote to have it appointed or not appointed, not to table it, because it'll come back every year.
One
Please
rule we have in the
please
delegation
consider
and the
giving us the
legislature,
respect
Commissioner,
that put it up
is
for a
we
yes or
don't
no vote,
impugn
not to
motives.
table.
We don't impugn motives, Commissioner, as you just did. You have no idea what my personal feelings are, and I have no
Well, but
idea
tell
what your
us.
personal feelings are. So, Senator McKay,
I think Michelle Gordon had her name up first, if I may.
this is a discussion amongst the members of the delegation,
Understood.
Senator, and we will open it up for public comment at the end.
Understood, sir. So my comment is just that this is something that would take effect, the elimination of the election for a couple years from now. And so by tabling it, the discussion can continue and we can figure out a consensus to understand some clarity. And so I do believe that tabling it allows this to be a discussion for future. If we vote it down, it obviously can come back, but on the same token, I tend to believe it's giving both parties the ability to work this out.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Corrigan.
Thank you. I get back to the conversation we had at pre-legislation day, and I've yet to see the reason for this. And I asked that to the county. I mean, there was talks about cost savings, but no one has articulated what those cost savings may or may not be. So I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, other than we get these letters that say everyone's in support of it, but in support of what? There's been no clear, there's been nothing clear put out there of why to eliminate the position and what the gain is for doing that or the negative effect. It's just been all these letters of, we all want this changed, but there's been no substance behind that of why. And so that's what I'm still waiting to see.
Thank you, Senator. Any other members care to comment? So we have a motion on the floor and seconded to table all three items relating to the treasurer. That includes the proposal to make the treasurer an appointed versus an elected position, the bill to alter the method of tax sales, and also the bill to alter the method of advertising. We will put that up for a vote. All those in favor of tabling those three indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed. Thank you all. Last item on the list under bill draft review is for black fly funding. So actually, good news there. Speaking with the Secretary of Agriculture on several occasions, he indicates that funding is included in his budget thus far, although we know that is subject to change. And basically, I guess it was back in 2017 or 19, the then chair of Environment and Transportation had sponsored, and the legislation was passed that said basically that subject to available funding, the department shall include monies in the budget for the spray program. Basically, what our legislation would do is change that. It would delete the subject to available funding clause, and it would insert shall in place of may, so that the secretary would be required to fund that. We know it's very difficult to get mandated spending bills through the legislature at this period. I'm not sure that we would be successful in this, but it is good news that the secretary has indicated that there is currently funding in the budget for that. He does point out as well that does require local matches, and I think that Washington County has had funding in their budget for that as well. So I think we're covered in that regard. And the thought also is that this would extend beyond Washington County, that it would include other counties, especially Frederick County, as they seem to have the same problem that we have. So that's the legislation. Again, anyone have any comments or want to discuss that further? I see nothing there, so we will put that one up for a vote next week as well. And then last, we still, as you all recall, in meeting with the correctional officers in Hagerstown, there were a couple of issues there regarding the manner in which personnel were being considered for different programs that were, some were excluded, some were included. So we're still waiting on the draft legislation now, but since we've been in Annapolis since session started, we've also had discussions with several of the DPSC folks, and they're still hopeful that they can get that addressed without the need for legislation. So we're still hopeful that will happen. Senator Corderman.
Yeah, just a quick question on that. Is that being drafted as a local bill? I mean, I know our delegation got invited out there and we're all aware of the situation, but is this obviously the issue statewide? So are we drafting that this would just be for correctional facilities in Washington County per se, or is it gonna be a statewide bill? Because a statewide bill, I don't know if it would be a delegation bill then. We could talk about that later, but I just didn't know what the.
I think it has to be a statewide bill because I don't think we could differentiate personnel in Hagerstown from the other correctional facilities. So yeah, we can discuss whether or not we want that to be a delegation bill, or if we can hand that one off to maybe someone in appropriations or somewhere that may have a good chance of getting that passed as a statewide.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, concerns, questions about that? Okay, and then finally, last on the agenda, we have opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone attending the meeting that would like to comment, just please state your name and address for the record. I see Paul Fry.
Morning, Paul Fry, Washington County Community Coalition, also president of the chamber. Just wanted to thank again delegation members for your support of our Day in Annapolis reception. I think it was an exceptionally good year. We got to hear from Speaker Jones. We got to hear from President Ferguson with our large group. We got to meet with a number of key committee chairs. And so thank you for your support. Again, I-81, when we walked up to folks, was the first thing came out of their mouth. And I saw the governor Tuesday evening, and he was downtown. I was with Delegate Prusky, Leadership Maryland, a classmate of mine, and the governor came in to chat and had a few kind words to say. And I said, Mr. Governor, I have 2 words for you, I-81. So we're going to get it done. He didn't say when. So to your point, Delegate Weibel, you know, I think it's timing. So there's been great support. I want to point in particular, Delegate Weibel, you and your team, Krista, thanks for your support. And Senator Corderman, Mary Teal, and your team for helping us get this done. I know you're busy and your team's busy, and we always appreciate your support. And was a good message from Washington County. So thank you all for your support, and everyone else. I see a number of folks on this call that were there as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And I agree. It's always a great day for Washington County to basically spend a full day with the leadership of Washington County, with the various leaders throughout the community, and to showcase the business and industry that we have in Washington County. I always say we have the best county in the state, so it's good that we're able to showcase that. And there is a lot behind the scenes that's done as far as staff goes, and we appreciate everything that they do to bring everything together. And thank you, Paul, and you and Greater Hagerstown, and all the work that you guys do to always make that event successful. So thank you. Next up, we have Michelle Gordon.
Michelle Gordon, County Administrator for Washington County. First, I'd like to start by thanking you for the good work that you're doing for all of our citizens here in Washington County. Just want to reinforce and remind the delegation that the board would like your support for all 3 of our legislative items. The board supported those requests unanimously, and so far the board has received the support from 8 of the 9 elected town mayors to convert the treasurer position to an appointed staff position. Studies do show that appointed treasurers often have higher levels of education than elected treasurers do. Findings also suggest that in some cases, there are benefits associated with assigning technical tasks to an appointed employee with specialized expertise. Those results of those studies also show have broader implications on the organization and the public good provision by creating a higher degree of expertise, transparency, and accountability. Appointing a treasurer will help streamline services by having someone with extensive experience in the proper accounting, billing, and collections, education, and knowledge, giving the county the ability to appoint an individual with an accounting degree with a number of years of experience for managerial, accounting, and billing and collections experience means the citizens and other county departments will be better served. Again, I'd just like to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilman Perini.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, represent the city of Hagerstown. I know you all are aware of the importance of the field house that's under development and the funding for same. It is a city project, but it is also a regional asset, and the city continues to request the delegation support. And the final piece, the gap funding, if you will, just the last yard of funding from the state. So thank you for the opportunity. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But I'll also, if I can't, I'll get you the answer.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. Does anyone have any questions regarding that project? Okay, seeing none. Next up, we have Mayor Long.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate everything the delegation's doing to try to, Howard Long, Mayor of Boonesborough. Sorry about that, guys. Appreciate everything you guys been doing to try to help you, and just want to remind you, we are really, really desperate to get this reservoir started. We got all the plans go, so it's shovel ready. We're going to start this spring, whether we have the funding or not. We've already talked to some loan places, and we're talking to MDE. We got to get it started. We're just afraid we've patched it enough and plugged it enough that one of these days that baby may just give, and we want to be sure that we're ready to go before that happens. Again, thank you guys for all your support, and hopefully we can get some more.
Thank you, Mayor. You've certainly done a good job promoting that project. We're all fully aware of it and doing what we can, but as you know, money's tight this year, so hopefully we're successful in helping you out there a little bit. Anyone else? I see no other hands raised. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved there, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Senator McKay, second. Second by Delegate Baker.